Hey friends, today I'm going to read another Black history book about a woman named Raye Montague. It's another true story, and it's another book about a female who's really great at math. The Girl with a Mind for Math, the story of Raye Montague. It was written by Finley Mosca and illustrated by Daniel Rieley. Now, this is someone I don't know about, so we're going to be learning about this together. Here the end paper's got, can you see what that is? Submarines. If there's something you want but it seems out of reach, here's a story for you, a great truth it will teach. When you focus your mind, you'll succeed through and through, like one bold engineer by the name of Montague. In a state we call Arkansas, one winter day, a baby was welcomed, a girl they called Raye. She was bright as a star, super smart from the start. She was headstrong, this child, and not faint of heart. Okay, I'm going to be honest. This book is in verse and rhyme. I don't always like stories in rhyme, but I think it's important to learn about her, so I'm going to read it. Yes, this girl had potential. Her granddad was proud. He told her, "Work hard, you'll stand out from the crowd." Then something she'd cherished when Raye was just 7. He took her to see her first ship. It was heaven. A real submarine? Her eyes opened wide. "Who made it?" she asked as they followed the guide. "Engineers," said the man, giving Raye's head a pat. "But, my dear, you don't need to know all about that." At the time, the man's insult went over her head. "No, you can't," were the words he had meant, but not said. So it was very unusual again for women to be interested in fields like this, and especially if she's African American. So he was just like, "You don't need to worry about that because has nothing to do with you," which is very insulting. Engineering, thought Raye, and her life's dream began, except most people laughed when she told them her plan. "Stay strong," said her mom. "Use your brains, you'll be fine. There will always be people who pay you no mind. Just because you're a girl and because you are black, don't let them or the state of your school hold you back." You see, schools in those days were what's called segregated. The black and white students were kept separated. "That's wrong," you exclaimed. It was dismal, no fooling. And worst of all, white kids received better schooling. But Raye studied hard. She had grit, taught herself. She was gifted in math and read books by the shelf. When the time came for college, she knew what to choose. She'd learned to build boats, but then got some bad news. "Engineering's not taught to black students," they said. Her heart hit the floor. "I'll take business instead." She learned what she could, and she learned the rest later. Their rules were unjust, but that school wouldn't break her. Can you imagine? They wouldn't let black children, or actually she wasn't a kid anymore, she was going to college. They wouldn't let her take engineering classes because of the color of her skin. It's outrageous. Raye finished with honors. Oh boy, what a smarty. She said her farewells. There's no time to party. I'm off to a place filled with history's grace, the capital city of all 50 states. Now finding a job, it turned out that took time. She looked and she looked. Raye was not one to whine. Then it must have been fate, at least that's what it seemed. She was hired to type where they built submarines. So, okay, she has a degree. And this was not just African American women, but most women. Even if you went to college, like back in the 40s and 50s, you still became a secretary. You couldn't get a really good job. The Navy, that's right. Oh, but hold your cheers. Ship designing was only for trained engineers. So she watched as they worked, and she learned every task, even studied computers by night in a class. Then her big break arrived. The whole staff got the flu. Raye did all her work, and the engineers too. Her boss was in shock. How?" he exploded. "From memory," said Raye, and with that she got promoted. Life should have been swell, yet that wasn't the case. Her boss treated her poorly because of her race. Many people like him tried to make her feel small. Raye just held her head high, and she outworked them all. So they were treating her badly, even though she was super smart, just because of her race. What next? From the White House there came a command. The president ordered a ship. Make it grand. And quickly, he added. Well, that didn't fly. All those plans would take engineers months to supply. Here's the thing about that. When designing a boat, there are thousands of measurements one needs to note. All those numbers take math, and that takes some time. Ah, but Raye had been working on something sublime. So she had already been working on a very fancy boat, which is a submarine. She took a deep breath. I can solve this, she said. I've come up with a system to do it instead. I'll draw the plans faster, she told them. Don't fret. I'll design the first ship by computer. No sweat. How long do you think that might take? What's your guess? Would it take her a month, maybe weeks for success? Well, it took calculations and tons of caffeine. Caffeine is what is in coffee. But Raye finished in hours, just over 18. So it took her 18 hours using computer programs that she wrote to design this ship, where usually it would take months and months and months to do it by hand in your head. Her program, it worked. All the blueprints were done. The ship was constructed. The engineers, stunned. You did it, they cheered, and her boss had to say that her quick mind for math had in fact saved the day. What's sad is that because of her race and because she was female, she had to work even harder than everybody else to prove herself, even though she was smarter than everybody else. The end? No, not quite. When Raye's ship was unveiled, only white men could go, and Raye's invite, not mailed. So she designed the whole thing, and they didn't invite her to it's kind of like a sending off party when the boat is going to be launched, and they didn't even invite her. Say what? You heard right. No invite? Abhorrible. In fact, some might say it was downright deplorable. This is because she's African American. Unbelievable. And because she's a woman. Yet Raye kept her cool, gave her best every day, and in time all her skills were applauded. Hooray! People learned of her work. Who's this Raye? They'd demand. And when they met her, they stared. They expected a man. Yes, that happened a lot. Many could not believe that a woman of color did all she'd achieved. Some even thought Raye was a maid. Sad but true. When they ordered a drink, she'd say, bring me one too. So at the office, people who came to visit would say, hey, can you get my coffee? Thinking that that's all she did. And yet she was so smart, one of the engineers. All her humor and wit served her well through the years as she battled the hard times with laughs and not tears. And that boss in the Navy who'd been so unkind made Raye the first woman to lead ship design. More honors would follow, her fame picked up steam, and finally at last she accomplished her dream. That title she'd worked for on engineers. An engineer. Score! Now the world knows her feat. She is hidden no more. Raye Montague, engineer. So the lesson to all is don't ever give in. Take a chance. Rock the boat. If it sinks, you can swim. When a storm comes your way, hold your course and don't stress. Never quit. And like Raye, propel straight to success. This is from Raye Montague, this little note. Dear reader, if you have a dream like I did, study hard and stay focused. Always remember that just because someone says you can't doesn't mean it has to stop you. You might have to go in a different direction, and it might take you a little longer, but you can achieve your dreams. Raye Montague. And here's a picture of her in real life. This is what she looks like. So with any good nonfiction book, at the end, it tells you facts about the author and her talks with Raye Montague, and it has some pictures of her, and it tells you kind of more in-depth information about her life and how hard she had to work and how she didn't give up. So if you want to check out this book, you can read more about her. And here's a timeline that tells you when she was born. She was born in 1935, which is the same year my dad was born. And she was born in the South in Arkansas. And it has pictures of her and just tells you about how smart she was and how much work she had to do to be successful. And unfortunately, she passed away in 2018. And here she is as a young woman. And here she is a little bit later. And again, lots of information if you're interested in knowing more about her. And here's some articles you can read about her. And some videos if you'd like to see some videos. There are some pictures of submarines. Now, before I got this book, I had never heard of Raye Montague, and that's one reason we read these books, is so you can hear about people that are so inspirational, so hardworking, and don't let others tell them what they can and cannot do. And her lesson to you is to keep working hard and stand up for yourself. I hope you enjoy this story, friends. Happy reading.